Welcome to the April 2019 edition of This Month in Payroll. 30 June is looming closer, and many of us are turning our minds towards our year-end obligations, as well as thinking, where did the last 10 months go? I'm Rowan Geddes, and this is This Month in Payroll. This edition covers increased regulations and proposed funding for Fair Work, changes to the Horticulture Award, Single Touch Payroll, year-end preparations, including employee share scheme reporting, superannuation guarantee compliance, a fraud warning, and our 2019 Payroll Consulting Roadshow. First, the federal budget. The federal budget was handed down on the 2nd of April. In this year's budget, the Australian Government announced a series of measures responding to recommendations made in the Migrant Workers Task Force report. These measures included the provision of $29 million in additional funding to the Fair Work Ombudsman, to bolster enforcement action against employers, to establish a sham contracting unit, and to enhance resources to ensure vulnerable workers are aware of their workplace rights. So, what is the Migrant Workers Task Force report? The task force, chaired by former ACCC boss Alan Fels, was set up in October 2016 in response to a series of migrant worker underpayment scandals, including 7-Eleven. It was found that the problem of wage underpayment as it applies to the migrant workforce is widespread and has become entrenched over time. The task force suggested, based on academic research, that as many as 50% of the 880,000 temporary migrant workers in Australia may be being underpaid in their employment. Examples of breaches included employees being paid less than half the minimum wage, employees not receiving payslips and being paid in cash, and employers confiscating the passports of their employees. The task force considered 4 key elements of compliance. 1. Education and access to information. 2. Regulators taking action to promote compliance. 3. Employees obtaining redress for underpayment where this has occurred. And 4. Considering whether the laws and the powers of the regulators are appropriate to enforce effective compliance when necessary. At the end of this consideration, the task force made 22 recommendations aimed at improving workplace protections for vulnerable migrant workers. The coalition government has accepted in principle all 22 recommendations. Some of the most significant recommendations are: criminal sanctions, such as jail time and fines, should be instigated rather than only civil penalties, but only for the most serious and egregious cases, not for employers that accidentally or inadvertently do the wrong thing. Courts should be given the power to make additional enforcement orders, such as publicity or banning orders, against employers who underpay migrant workers. The Fair Work Ombudsman should be provided with the same information gathering powers as other business regulators, such as the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. The government should consider whether the Fair Work Ombudsman requires further resourcing, tools and powers to undertake its functions, hence the $29 million in the budget. Interestingly, the name of the Fair Work Ombudsman should be changed to reflect its regulatory role, and the government should explore mechanisms to exclude employers from employing new temporary visa holders where they have been convicted by a court of underpaying temporary migrant workers. This is already being trialled in New Zealand. Given the statements of the Labor Party in the current election campaign, it seems likely that both parties would be supportive of these changes once the election has been run. Therefore, employers should take note of the recommendations of the task force, particularly if you are an employer of migrant workers, either directly or through subcontracting. Changes to the Horticulture Award. On the 2nd of April, the Fair Work Commission handed down a decision to change the Horticulture Award for casual employees working in the farming industry to include ordinary hours of work, a night loading and overtime entitlements. It also clarified the penalty rate for working on public holidays for casuals. The changes, applying from the first full pay period on or after 15th of April 2019, provide casual employees working under this award with overtime pay at a rate of 175% of their minimum hourly wage, which includes their 25% casual loading, when they work more than 304 ordinary hours during an 8-week period, or 12 ordinary hours on any day of engagement. Secondly, a 15% night loading for work undertaken between 8:30pm and 5am, in addition to their 25% casual loading. And thirdly, 225% of their minimum hourly wage, including their casual loading, on public holidays. Single Touch Payroll. We are now less than 3 months away from year end, which will provide many employees with their first experience of Single Touch Payroll, being the fact that payment summaries will no longer need to be issued by employers. The ATO released this month a paper entitled Single Touch Payroll for Employees. Providing employees with some education about what STP means for them has been an ask of the tax office for the last year, so it is good to see this first salvo. In the paper, the Tax Office advises employees of several STP facts, of which we as employers are already aware, including 1. That year-to-date tax and superannuation information, updated every time an employee is paid, can now be accessed by logging into MyGov. It also warns that, without a MyGov account, employees won't be able to see the tax and superannuation information online. Secondly, employers no longer need to give employees an end-of-year payment summary for the information that they report and finalise through STP, because it will be available online as an income statement once it is finalised by the employer. And thirdly, that employees will now receive a notification to their MyGov inbox when their income statement is tax ready. It notes that this must be done by an employer by 31st of July, and the Tax Office recommends that tax returns not be lodged until the statement is completed. It also flags that if employees can't access the information via MyGov, employees will be able to contact the Tax Office for a copy of their income statement. Notwithstanding the Tax Office's paper, there is still a requirement for employers to help educate their employees about the changes arising due to STP, because failing to do so will likely result in a significant spike in inquiries from employees come tax time. Employers should consider over the next month what their action and communication plan is around delivery of payment summaries, encouraging employees to open a MyGov account so that they can access their payroll and superannuation records online, and explaining the alternative for employees who don't open a MyGov account. In addition to the year-end single-touch payroll reporting, payroll functions also need to be preparing for other year-end matters. Here are some things that payroll functions can be doing to ensure that year-end is a smooth process. Review employee master data for accuracy, tax file numbers, addresses, dates of birth. Reconcile year-to-date numbers, including ETP payment summaries. Make any necessary adjustments through payroll. For those running in STP, adjustment runs need to happen to capture any changes that are required to be made. And if you have any employee equity arrangements, you'll be required to generate employee share scheme statements for employees. This will require coordination with the employee share scheme team to capture the taxable value of all employee equity awards that had a taxing event during the 2019 tax year. Employers are required to provide statements to employees by 14th of July 2019, with a summary due to the Tax Office by the 14th of August. Superannuation Guarantee Integrity Measures. This month, several Superannuation Guarantee (SG) integrity measures were enacted, designed to increase education and to deter non-compliance. As a result of these measures, from 1 April 2019, the Tax Office can now disclose information to employees regarding the non-payment of SG on their behalves, including providing updates to the employees on their efforts to recover the outstanding amounts. Debt collection mechanisms have strengthened around director penalty notices and around issuing security deposits for outstanding superannuation guarantee and other tax-related liabilities. And employers will be granted access to a free ATO-approved 2-hour online education course with assessment to help them better understand their SG obligations. Employers who are found to be non-compliant with their SG obligations may be directed by their Commissioner to mandatorily undertake this course. A fraud warning. The Australian Cyber Security Centre, ACSC, has called on payroll officers to be alert to a new online fraud based on fake emails that are requesting a change of bank details for employees. These emails copy the email and signature blocks of staff and are sent to HR or payroll areas, appearing to ask for a change in bank account details for the current or the next pay. The ACSC gave an example of a payroll officer who received an email requesting a change of employee bank details. The email looked quite authentic and appeared to be an innocuous request. First, there was an email to payroll asking, "I'd like to change my direct deposit information. Can it be effective for the current pay date?" The payroll officer emailed a reply and then received a second email providing new direct deposit information. It wasn't until the payroll officer had updated the details and notified the worker by internal mail that the fraud was discovered. We are aware of 2 employers who have been hit with this fraud in the last 3 months, so extra care should be taken whenever responding to an email requesting a change of bank account details. We also recommend the use of internal email to verify all requests as being best practice. Finally, it is time again for our annual Payroll Consulting Roadshow. In May and June in 6 locations, we will be presenting a range of speakers, which include a representative from our workplace law team who will provide insights on the federal election results and what the next government may mean for employer obligations and entitlements, as well as for the Fair Work and for the Australian Tax Office. We're also pleased this year to have a local employer who will share their own personal user experience on payroll transformation and what makes a payroll function impactful. And I will present an update on local and global trends in payroll, while your local payroll consulting partner will present on more local issues that impact your market specifically. I hope you can join us. Places are limited, so if you're keen to attend, I encourage you to register soon. Please follow the link to our registration page. And that's it for this month in payroll. I hope you find our updates a valuable way of staying up to date with changes impacting payroll. If you have any payroll questions, you can find information on our website, pwc.com.au/payroll, or email me at rowan.geddes@pwc.com, or message me via LinkedIn. Thanks and have a great month.